Hi guys. So I've decided, in the spirit of International Yoga Day, International Day of Yoga, to do a series of videos. And I was trying to plan it all, and I found the best way for me is to read an excerpt from a book on yoga and just chat about it, because sometimes I feel if when I talk about yoga, meditation, yoga asanas, meditation, I feel like I'm just repeating things. So this will be more focused. And the reading I want to do today is on yoga, on a chapter on yoga, Introduction to Yoga, from a book called Ayurveda Simplified. So, Body Mind Matrix, and it's by Dr. Nisha Manikanthan. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. Anyway, it's such a great book, and the publisher is The Art of Living. And I've learned so much from here, like a lot. And it's just filled with very detailed information about yoga, about Ayurveda, food, uh, prana, different types of prana, different doshas, and so on. So I'll get started. This extract, it's not too long. So it says, yoga is much more than postures, just physical exercise of the body, as is often misconstrued. It encompasses something vast and varied that impacts the gross body and the subtle layers as well, and is essentially a way of living which also has the potential to create a vibrantly healthy body and mind. It is ancient yet practical wisdom for a healthier, happier, and more peaceful way of living that ultimately leads to self-realization, the science of discovering one's own self, the very source of pure consciousness, peace, and bliss. Only when we are in harmony within ourselves does harmony happen in our lives, benefiting and balancing the internal and external body. Yoga gradually leads one to rediscover his or her fullest potential on all levels of human consciousness, physical, psychological, and spiritual. It is in this manner that we cultivate harmony in ourselves. So I really think it's important to know that yoga is much more than postures, and because that's what the majority of people think that yoga is. The yoga asanas, the yoga postures, are one vital aspect of yoga, but not the only part of it. And without the other limbs, because yoga is said to have 8 limbs of yoga. 8 limbs, according to the great yogic sage Patanjali. And to practice just the yoga asanas is doing yourself a disservice. You never really get the full effect of a holistic yoga practice. And it's really amazing because I go through the 5, what is known as the 5 layers of existence, or panchakosha. So they're known as the 5 sheaths of our existence as human beings. And I try to go through them, or tend to each aspect of these layers during my yoga class. And it's quite telling how effective it is because of the feedback that I get from my students, either in the form of words messaging me and telling me how great they feel the practice is, or through them just totally blissing out, where they can't even hear me when I say, okay, turn to your right side, sit up, because they're totally knocked out. And that happens when you really tap into this vast, ever-present consciousness. And it's just pure peace, pure bliss. You know, whatever your body needs, you'll get from that space when you tap into it. So if you're tired, if you have fatigue that has been stored in your body over time, you'll just feel like you passed out, but you'll be awake. So awake but not awake. And my students are so cute because they say to me, I was sleeping but I wasn't, and I could hear you but I just was so far away and I really didn't want to get up. So that's very telling, how effective going through the different layers of consciousness are through a yoga lesson, through your practice, extended practice. And definitely, I think if you are to practice yoga, after each posture, even if you're doing it online, take some time to close your eyes and to just observe the effects of that one posture on your body, on your mind, without judgment. And let whatever's going to happen happen, and then move on to the next posture, even if it means pausing and playing. And that is one way that you can really get the most out of your practice. Even if you do a flow, so say for instance you're doing the sun salutations and you do them 1, 2, 3 times. After that, lie down on your mat before continuing your practice and just observe the sensations in the body, just without judgment. Observe the thoughts, observe the emotions, where they are, and let yourself surrender to that moment. Let the heartbeat slow down after vigorous practice, relax, and you really, all the benefits of that practice assimilate, and you really feel it. And it can really help you to go into deep meditation when you give yourself time and space between postures. And also breath work is such an important part of it. So I'll go through that next time. But with the Panchakosha, the 5 layers, I don't know if I can remember them all, but it's the physical body. So that includes the food and body sheath, the layer. That's why, like nutrition, Ayurveda, that's where Ayurveda comes into play. It's tending to the food sheath, the nutritional aspect of our existence. Then you get the intellect memory, that's another aspect. And you get the prana, life force, breath, so that's another aspect. Then you get the intuitive self, wisdom. And sorry, the intellect also includes ego, if I'm not mistaken. And then, so the 4th one is intuition, intuition, wisdom. And then the 5th one is bliss. So contrary to some belief systems which say that at our core we are sinful in nature, Eastern philosophy is the opposite. We are taught in this philosophy that at our core there is bliss, nothingness, bliss, whatever you want to call it, pure consciousness, awareness, nirvana, moksha, this experience of ourself as love, and it's just, it transcends anything you've ever experienced. Yeah, it gives life so much hope and meaning, because you're like, wow, if I can feel this, like sometimes I think when I've experienced it, I felt don't need anything. Like, you know, there's this beautiful author, Eckhart Tolle. He wrote The Power of Now and A New Earth. And he says in The Power of Now, he talks about a time when he was homeless and he was just in this complete state of bliss. And it didn't bother him. Like, I've only had small little, pockets of that feeling, but it's just phenomenal. And you feel like, I don't need anything. And that's the amazing thing about yoga, is because it puts you in touch with who you are, your true nature. And even if you're only getting small bits and pieces, the more you do it, the greater it's going to become. And when I look, to be honest, when I look at where I was and where I could have been and where I am now because of the practice of yoga, I experienced a lot of misery and suffering in my life because of things like depression, anxiety, and so on. And my own self-created suffering. And when I think of how my life took a turn because of my continued commitment to yoga practice, not because it was like ego based, and I thought it would make me look good, but because it just worked, and that's what I, as a teacher, wish to impart, to my students: genuine, authentic practice of yoga that works. Because if you're going into a yoga practice and you're coming out miserable, there's something missing. You've missed something, your teacher has missed something, because it is such a precise art, it's such a precise, whether you want to call it a science or whatever it is, of the self, of the mind, understanding the way the consciousness works and how to tap into our potential for experiencing bliss. And it's the type of bliss that aids the physical body. There's so many benefits. Lowering stress hormones in the body, like cortisol, for instance, calming the system down, rejuvenating the endocrine systems, the respiratory systems, it's so much more. So yeah, yoga is, in closing, yoga is so much more than just physical exercise or physical postures. And if you have any questions, please let me know. And yeah, I'll continue doing this. Hopefully it helps someone. Namaste.